What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new to my page, please go ahead and subscribe. Like I always say, no one's taking your money. It's free. Just click the button. It helps me, a small creator, to make more videos like this. For today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at this video that has now been surfacing around the web, which is Alec Baldwin being confronted by this Trump impersonator who goes by the name of Jason Scoop. And we're going to figure out, like, is it justified for celebrities to speak up for themselves, or should he have just ignored the situation? I feel like the internet is somewhat divided on this, so I'm gonna weigh in my thoughts, give context around what this impersonator was saying to Alec Baldwin. All right, so I'm gonna start off and show you guys the infamous clip of Alec Baldwin being approached by this Trump impersonator.
Alec, it's your favorite president. Look, Alec, I will offer you a total pardon, because I want to be friends, right? I want to be friends. I will give you a total pardon for murdering that woman if you kiss the ring. Kiss the ring, Alec. Kiss the big, beautiful ring. Come on, Alec. Come on, look at Alec Baldwin, right? He did that impersonation of me. It was not too hot, not too good. But look, we're back in office. You lost. Kamala lost. She's somewhere getting intoxicated. Look at that suitcase. Unbelievable. Well, Alec, if you don't want that pardon for murdering that woman in cold blood, you can call it first degree, you can call it whatever you want, but it was not good. She's looking down on me right now, smiling, happy. Thank you for confronting the man who took me out, who killed me, and that's okay.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
You realize, by the
Whoa.
way, no, look at me. I want you to look in the eye.
Sure.
You got a camera on me here?
The ring, no, it's the ring.
But you realize, my kids live in this building, right? But I want you to know something.
We love the children. We're doing great deals for the children.
Listen to me real careful.
Okay.
If this camera was here, I'd snap your fucking neck in half and break your fucking neck right out. You know that, don't you?
Okay. All right, Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, ladies and gentlemen, class act. Believe me. Believe me. Okay.
As you guys can see, Jason Scoop had approached Alec Baldwin outside of his New York City apartment. And within this confrontation, you can hear Alec Baldwin telling Jason Scoop, who is the Trump impersonator, "I'd snap your effing neck in half." Now, what has prompted the internet to get divided on this is there are oftentimes these kinds of celebrity encounters. We've seen it with Kanye West talking to paparazzi. We've seen it with Alec Baldwin's happened a couple of different times. Like, I remember there was another incident where somebody went into his restaurant and was confronting him about something, and then he ended up kicking that person out of the restaurant.
Free Palestine. Please say it. One time.
Could you do me one quick favor?
But we see it across the board with a bunch of different celebrities, and it always raises some kind of online debate of whether or not these celebrities should be saying something back, should stand up for themselves. In a video that was put out by TMZ where they actually had interviewed Jason Scoop, he also mentioned that after this interaction had taken place, Hilaria Baldwin had chased him down the block.
And then there's a part nobody saw because the camera was off. His wife chased me around the block after.
No, you are kidding me.
Oh, I'm not kidding you. Me and my cameraman were like, holy crap, I can't believe we got this. And then I hear this, what are you doing? Da, 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 behind me. You know, she pretended to be Spanish. So she's like, oh my God, what are you doing? And I turn around and I immediately recognize her. I'm like, that's the cucumber lady. That's the lady who pretended she couldn't pronounce cucumber, pretended to be Hispanic. Meanwhile, she grew up in Boston. Rich white girl. How you say cucumber? And she actually, this is a scoop for you guys. My name's Scoop, this is a scoop. She lunged for my phone. Miss Hilaria, she's like, come here.
So I'm gonna read to you guys different comments from X that just show basically kind of what general sentiment is towards this interaction. This X user says, so Baldwin can joke about Trump for years, but the moment someone mocks him, he loses it. Typical Hollywood hypocrisy. Maybe if he spent less time making threats and more time taking responsibility, Helena Hutchins would have justice by now. Another X-user says, not sure what the fun part was supposed to be, Jason Scoop. Attention, you nabbed it. Funny, nah, not even close. I'm siding with Alec on this and I don't even like the dude much. Now, I feel like I'm more on the side of Ask Wally, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why. Now, I don't necessarily think that celebrities are exempt from being criticized. Like, clearly I have this channel where we talk about celebrities, talk about pop culture. We're constantly trying to analyze, critique, all those things. That is totally fine. I'm all on board with everybody having their opinion, sharing your opinion. Totally fine. Now, if you approach Alec Baldwin outside of his New York City apartment and you're all up in his face, you're joking with him about a court case, which I'm going to get into it later in this video. You're joking with him dressed as this figure that he also infamously plays on SNL or played for many years. You're going to get a response, and for him to say that he's going to snap your neck, that's like, obviously he's not going to do it. My issue is the guy who then went on and did a TMZ interview, then almost, I feel like he was joking about it, so I'm like, okay, like he was just lighthearted, he gets it, like obviously which celebrity is going to be happy about this. But if there's this kind of sense of like self-victimization, that's where I'm like, dude, like you approached him outside of his home, got in his face, were recording, were mentioning like sensitive topics to him. What did you expect was going to be his response? Like,
I mean, did you get nervous or feel any
Yeah, at one
feelings?
point I definitely thought he was going to physically hit me. 100%.
Right.
Yeah, I did get, I don't want to admit this, but yes, I did get a little nervous. I will admit. I'm a human being. He's a scary man.
Now, did you know, what did you think of him saying, I'm going to kill you?
Well, in that moment, I'm like, I got gold, baby! But that was one half of my brain.
That was the viral moment that you wanted.
Yeah, that was one half of my brain. And then the other half of my brain was, is he really gonna kill me?
I'm just saying for myself, if someone gets all up in my face like that, then it's gonna be an issue, okay? You can go online, you can say what you want, but you know, when you're in someone's face, in someone's like physical proximity, there's a bit of a difference. You're gonna wanna defend yourself. I also just think that a lot of people hold celebrities to a certain regard. Like they have to have this like perfect response. If they're caught saying something, doing something, and they get canceled, now they have to film this like apology video. And I think that all of that is kind of bullshit. Like, I think that you are entitled to be a human, you're entitled to your opinions, you're entitled to all those things. And like, he is also equally entitled, by he I mean Alec Baldwin, is entitled to speak up for himself in that kind of a situation. It doesn't matter who's confronting him. Now, I do want to say that Alec Baldwin does have a history of confrontation, so I'm going to go through some of those, and then I'm also going to talk about what this person was referencing in the joke slash video towards Alec Baldwin, which was this reference of like, oh, you killed this woman in cold daylight. Now, I feel like a lot of people are probably familiar with that case, but if you're not, we're going to get into it in the later half of this video. So first off, let's talk about the different interactions, negative interactions that Alec Baldwin has had with the press or with PR. Now, if you guys can recall, all the way back in 2013, Alec Baldwin was caught on camera yelling out homophobic slurs to a New York Post reporter.
Get away from my wife and the baby with the camera. What fucking language you want that in? What language you want it in?
Alex, let it go. Let it go.
Get away from my kid with the camera. You know what's gonna happen to you, don't you? Come on! Fucking girl.
Now, this resulted in his MSNBC talk show getting canceled. And like I said previously, you guys are probably not gonna fully agree with me on this, but I'm very against cancel culture. I'm very against stripping somebody of their job, whatever. I mean, it definitely depends like the degree of what they are saying, because you're in an encounter, in Alec Baldwin's case, with this homophobic slur. He's in an encounter with paparazzi where, like I said, they're in his face, they're taunting him with questions. And I'm not advocating for him to be like, yes, like say homophobic things, but I'm also saying that when you're in that kind of a situation, what does kind of the human instinct kind of call out for you? Like I said, it doesn't justify what is said, but should he have had his show canceled? I don't necessarily think that. We also have a parking spot fight that happened in 2018. According to the reports that had come out during that time, Alec Baldwin and another man were fighting over a parking spot, which then prompted Alec Baldwin to punch this guy in the face.
Police say a few hours earlier, Baldwin was trying to parallel park outside his building around 1 p.m. when a 49-year-old man from Rockland County driving a Saab station wagon cut behind Baldwin's Cadillac Escalade and pulled in the spot first. Sources tell CBS 2 Baldwin yelled at the other driver, then followed him over to a muni meter where the two men pushed each other. Then the driver claims Baldwin hit him on the left side of his face.
Alec Baldwin was charged with third-degree assault and harassment, but later on he did plead guilty to a lesser charge. I can't justify this one. I'm like, dude, just find another parking spot. It's not a big deal. People who have road rage to me, now I'm not saying that I'm absolved of those things, okay? I definitely have my share of road rage. I have my fair share of things that randomly just like tick me off on a certain day, and like normally on other days I might be fine, but that day you caught me in a bad mood, we're going at it, okay? So Alec Baldwin, it could have been that kind of day for him, but I'm like, you know what, there's no justification around it, okay? Objectively speaking. Now, why did this comedian Jason Scoop choose to dress up like Trump? That is because Alec Baldwin had infamously played Donald Trump during Saturday Night Live from 2016 all the way to 2020. At that time, he was highly scrutinized, or his role was very controversial, I would say. And that was mainly on the side of like Trump supporters. A lot of people felt that it was offensive, the way that Trump was being portrayed by Alec Baldwin. Trump himself had even said that it was horrible and that he called Alec Baldwin not funny. So he wasn't a fan of it. His supporters probably weren't a fan of it because he wasn't a fan of it. And even though a lot of conservatives felt like Alec Baldwin was really unfairly mocking Donald Trump, a lot of liberals actually really loved his impersonation of it. So it became more of a political issue. Obviously, if you're impersonating a president or any kind of political figure, people are going to be drawn to it. Now, my thinking is this. I think every political figure is fair game to be impersonated, especially in a show like Saturday Night Live that is supposed to talk about current events, current issues. You're supposed to have Kamala Harris there. You're supposed to have Joe Biden there. You're supposed to have Trump there being impersonated so that people can, you know, mock them, laugh at them. It's a form of satire. It's a form of free speech. So it's fine. Like I said, it's fine. Even if Trump doesn't like it, he doesn't like the thing, but it's fine. You know, it's a joke. It's a bit that he is putting on Alec Baldwin. My issue is when people then like kind of self-victimize, like Jason Scoop. He didn't really do this, but people are kind of doing it on his behalf and being like, Alec Baldwin is this madman for threatening him and for saying that he was gonna snap his neck. And it's like, okay, they're all in on it. It's all a comedic thing, okay? Obviously, Alec Baldwin didn't like it, but let's not make it more than what it is. Now, the other part that I want to mention is the reference that Jason Scoop made in his little joke, which was that, oh, you killed this moment in cold blood. Now, if you guys do not know about this situation with Alec Baldwin, I'm going to give you guys a refresher slash a timeline on this situation. So dating all the way back to October 21st of 2021, this is when Alec Baldwin had accidentally shot a gun that was used inside of his movie that he was filming at that time, and he shot it in the direction of one of the directors who was helping him at that time set up a marking shot. So what a marking shot looks like is basically like they're just kind of figuring out like what is the correct positioning for the camera, for the actor to be in, so that when they do film the actual movie or the actual scene in the movie, the actor knows like when to stop, what to look at, like where to point the gun towards, all of those things. So while they were practicing the marking of that, the gun had accidentally gone off. Now, I've done like some investigation into this. I didn't want to go fully into it because I was like, that's going to be a whole other video if I go into this. Now, in October 21, the director that was shot and was eventually killed was Helena Hutchins. Now, when Alec Baldwin had shot the gun, or the gun had gone off, again, there's different accounts of this situation, there was another piece of that same bullet that had hit another director that was present on the set at that time. And that director's name was Joel Souza. Now, Joel Souza did survive, but unfortunately, like I said, Helena Hutchins did pass away that day, I think like an hour or two after that initial firing. Now, I have to mention that the day before this gunshot was fired and Helena was tragically killed, there were members of the crew that had walked out on the filming of the movie. They had stated a couple of different things, such as like the location of the set was far from their hotel. They also had stated other like working conditions were unsatisfactory. And then they stated their concerns over different safety issues, where there had been 2 accidental weapons discharges and a special effects mess up that had caused explosives to go off unintentionally. Now, 6 days after the tragic shooting, Alec Baldwin did release a statement basically saying that he was heartbroken about what had happened and just sharing his grievances towards the death of Helena Hutchins. We later get that year the infamous interview that Alec Baldwin does with ABC, which is where he claims a lot of different things. I think people kind of had very mixed reactions to him. Some felt like, yes, he was very sympathetic towards what had happened. Others felt like he deflected a lot of accountability against him and like put it onto the armorer that was working for the movie and also the assistant director, and had just kind of generally reflected accountability, even though he was ultimately the one that was handling the gun. And then others also had felt like Alec Baldwin should not have even been on TV because this was an active criminal investigation. I do want to say it is challenging for people that are in the public eye or celebrities not to go public because their persona does largely depend on what the public thinks. I mean, you have Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. They are actually both out of the spotlight for the moment, so their lawyers are really the ones that are doing all the talking for them, which is how this kind of thing should go. Alec Baldwin's case, because he was a part of a criminal investigation, he really should have allowed the trial just to exist on its own, but I could see the draw to do it. I just wouldn't suggest that he should go on like a giant network and talk about the case and say that he was not guilty.
This was a completely incidental shot, an angle that may not have ended up in the film at all. But we kept doing this, and so then I said to her, now in this scene, I'm going to cock the gun. And I said, do you want to see that? And she said, yes. So I take the gun and I start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I said, do you see that? She goes, well, just cheat it down and tilt it down a little bit like that. And I cock the gun. I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off. I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off.
At the moment, the decisive
That was the
moment
the gun went off, yeah. That was the moment the gun went off.
It wasn't in the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them, never. Never. That was the training that I had. You don't point a gun at me and pull the trigger.
Now, there are different experts, gun experts, that have weighed in on this, and they have suggested that most likely it is the case that this gun did not go off by itself.
Okay, explain to me what he's claiming and how plausible that is.
Okay, so not plausible. On a single action revolver, when you pull the hammer back, which is an intentional act, click, 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 click. Now the hammer is set. When you pull the hammer back and let go, as you can see, I'm not holding this, the hammer doesn't go anywhere. When you press the trigger, which is, I'm going to do it with this finger so you can see what a minute act that is. It takes very little to press the trigger there. So option one, he pressed the trigger, but it was such a minor press that he wasn't aware that he had, ordered that signal from his brain. Or option B, he's holding the gun with the trigger depressed. Now, on this gun, it doesn't matter which order you go in. You can either cock the gun and you can fire it with the trigger, or you can press the trigger and then cock the gun. And if you release it at this point, it falls and the gun fires.
Now, I do want to say that there were 2 different lawsuits that were going on at that time. Like I mentioned, there was an armorer on set, which was Hannah Gutierrez Reed. And the role of the armorer is basically to make sure that the actors are using the gun safely, that they're always checking to make sure that there's no live ammunition, that if there is live ammunition, it's like nowhere near the set, or it's in a completely different location than where the guns are being held. So the armor really does have that responsibility to make sure that those objects are being handled with great care. Now, I see a lot of people at that time were saying that Alec Baldwin himself should have checked to see like if the gun had any like live ammunition inside of it. I do think that that does make sense. I feel like if I think about myself, I feel like any time that I would be using it, I would probably be freaked out to be using it just because that's not my kind of thing. Now, I will say Alec Baldwin has had a history with working with weapons in different movies, so I feel like maybe for him, he has become a little bit more normalized to using them, and he hasn't necessarily worked on like the biggest sets. Like I think there was a quote that George Clooney had put out basically saying that it was his custom, the way that he was taught, that he would always show that the gun was empty. But I also think that George Clooney worked on a different caliber of movies. So it's like, it's kind of hard to compare one situation to another situation, especially when I think like for entertainment industry, yes, there are standards, but it's kind of hard to practice those across the board at every single set, especially when this movie Rust was one of his projects that he was investing his time and money into. Now, in January 2023, Baldwin was convicted of involuntary manslaughter, but then in April of 2023, the charges against Baldwin were dropped because there wasn't sufficient evidence, but they did leave the case open to be retried if there was ever new evidence presented. Now, there was eventually new evidence later that year. An FBI expert reviewed the gun and had basically shared what I had already told you guys, which was that the gun had to be initiated in some kind of way where it couldn't have just gone off. It required at least 2 pounds of pressure on the trigger in order for this gun to go off. And then in January of 2024, Baldwin was recharged with involuntary manslaughter. And what we know about the Armours case with Hannah Gutierrez Reed was that she was made to serve time in prison. She served 18 months in prison. She was being asked to testify in Alec Baldwin's case, but she wanted to do so with immunity granted to her, that they would not be able to retry her case in a later time, considering the new information. And the court did not grant this to her. So I was like, girl, maybe she just doesn't want to be retried, but I'm thinking you're looking sketchy because you don't want to speak about details of the case to maybe help shed light on Alec Baldwin's case because you know that it can come back on you. Now, one of the key details that is not yet to have been released, which is being held by Hannah Gutierrez Reed, is where that live ammunition even came from. What was the purpose of bringing it on set? Because she wasn't exactly forthright with that information in her case, but she was still tried. If she brings it up and brings in new information in Alec Baldwin's case, then she still faces the possibility of being retried for that crime, considering that new information. So she's not talking. They're probably still gonna make her talk, but she does not want to be talking. Like I said, I'm not gonna get into the depths of this case, but a lot of stuff was shady about this. Like I mentioned, that FBI agent that reviewed the gun, they ended up smashing the gun into pieces when they were testing out, like, could this gun have gone off by itself? Like, what is the full realm of possibility? Even Alec Baldwin's lawyers / attorneys called this out and said, like, it's so interesting that in a case where we are dealing with like the misusage of weaponry, like this weaponry like gets misused by the same authority that's supposed to be examining it. But anyways, the timeline of the Rust movie incident, hopefully what it illuminates is the legal and also public pressure that Alec Baldwin is probably dealing with as it relates also to this case. So when this person is approaching him and saying that you killed this person in cold blood, like he did do those things, but you can see why it matters more than other things probably. It's been something that he has been dealing with for the past couple of years. So it's no surprise that he would feel offended by this kind of a joke. It's no surprise that he would be saying something back to this Trump impersonator. I want to hear what you guys think though. Do you guys feel like Alec Baldwin overreacted? Should he not have said anything? Should he just have like let everything go? Do you feel like celebrities should like give like a clap back when people are up in their comments and telling them things? Let me know your guys' thoughts. And like always, thank you guys so much for watching my videos. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye, everyone.